Hi, my name is Jean Marie Tenuto, and today is a very special day. I'm headed to the San Diego Archdiocese. I'm picking up a portion of the AIDS quilt. I'm delivering it alone. I'm transporting it up to Oceanside Museum, where it will be displayed this coming Saturday, which is June 11th, 2022, for the Pride by the Beach festivities. Big day for me, really big day for me. And the reason is in 1989, in December of 1989, I was part of a group called ACT UP, and we went into St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. It was massive. There were 5,000 people protesting the church that day, and I was one of them. I was part of this group that went into the church, and it was during Mass, and we took over. Some of us laid on the aisle, some of us laid on the outer aisles, some of us wrapped ourselves around the altar. And there was the Archbishop, his name was John O'Connor at the time. And he was not very kind to the community whatsoever in 1989. Not too many people in these types of institutions were actually. Their perspective was that this was a way God was punishing the gay community, and specifically gay men. And it was just outrageous. It was outrageous. It was a brutal perspective. The disease was horrendous. To die of the disease was a terrible, still is a terrible thing. But at the time, we had no drugs. We had very limited knowledge of the disease. We just knew it was contagious and it was affecting mostly gay men. So my friends and I took arms, in a sense, and with our voices, and we went to the Catholic Church that day to protest with ACT UP. ACT UP stands for the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. And it was formed in 1987, and their slogan was "Silence equals death," which you may or may not know about. In any event, today, a bookend to that experience, I am now driving down to the Catholic Archdiocese of San Diego, who has very kindly stored the AIDS quilt for us. And the AIDS quilt is a memory to those who have passed. It's something their friends and families have put together. And I hope you come by and see the AIDS quilt someday soon and see how many people were affected and still are by the AIDS crisis. More to come. Bye. So today is Gay Pride in Oceanside, and I'm standing inside the museum right now. Behind me is the AIDS quilt that I delivered from the Archdiocese of San Diego. It looks beautiful. It's just part of it. I'll scan some more. But I just wanted to give a little history on the quilt itself. So it's literally, it's called the Names Project Memorial Quilt. And it started in around 1985 during a memorial march or remembrance march up in San Francisco for the deceased, specifically for Harvey Milk and George Moscone, who were murdered in San Francisco in 1978. So every year they would have these remembrance candlelight vigils throughout San Francisco. And that particular year, a man named Cleve Jones, he was really inspired, probably because he was surrounded by death. He asked people, his friends, to post names of people that were dying from AIDS on a wall, just from, pieces of paper taped to a wall in the federal building in San Francisco. So Cleve went back the next morning, and it looked like a patchwork. It looked like a quilt, probably something like, like that. Probably not as fancy. And by 1987, he brought together a whole group of friends, and they started to create the quilt. In that time frame, to bury our brothers who were dying of AIDS in the gay community, it was really challenging to some families because the stigma of a disease that was contagious. So funeral homes were not taking the bodies, and families were not sure how to manage this. That's a whole nother story, but there were really no formal burial grounds for some of these guys. So the AIDS quilt is really the only way to connect with these people for a memorial. So it's very disturbing, it's very upsetting, it's a very emotional situation, and it still is. So 2 points of interest. One is this is actually the largest, considered the largest folk art in the world, and it weighs in at 54 tons, so it's a very large quilt. Last time it was displayed was in 1996 in the mall in Washington, D.C., and I actually had a chance to see some of it in Long Beach as well. So Long Beach at the Queen Mary. Okay, so it's now here at the Oceanside Museum, and it's on display. Let me take some film. Okay.